Well. Saturday, March 11th. We are about 4 days away from the official start of free agency. We are already into the free agency period, let's say. Big trade yesterday. The Chicago Bears uh, shipped off the first round pick in the draft for a handful of draft picks made out like banditos. In addition, and to landing DJ Moore, who should fare pretty well. I guess probably a quarterback upgrade, let's go ahead and say. Justin Fields. We'll see where he's at as a passer here soon enough. But for right now, looks like a great deal to me for the Chicago Bears. We'll see. If you want to find out more about that, go to the YouTube page here. I'm Bob Harris. Hello, Scott Covey. Hello, Albert. Hello, Dame. Hello, Brian Larkin. Hello, Matthew Whitfield, who I totally hosed and meant to send a link to this draft, but I did not. So glad you could all make it. Troy Olsen, voice in fuego here. Some really good drafters in this draft as well. Jim Furry, you often see it here. Jake Anderson, who I'm in the middle of a mock draft on Twitter. If you go to my timeline, you'll see that there. Jake doing a great job at that. Scott Kobe in this draft as well as Troy. And Emil Kadlik, of course, in as well. We'll start this up momentarily. It's basically, we're calling it a Superflex, and you can go ahead and draft it like that if you're in the draft room. For Sleeper, we had to set up a 2-quarterback. But the usual, kind of a sort of draft. So we'll start this up momentarily as I talk about some of the news. But just generally speaking, the usual kind of setup here. 12 teams, 16 rounds. We'll throw it in. You're working under some assumptions there of just a normal team. Probably don't have to draft a defense if you don't want to, but you can, right? Quarterback, running back, wide receiver, tight end, all those things. And we'll get it underway in a minute and discuss that. Just a couple questions about the conversation here. Andrew's here. John Bonneville, thanks for coming, you guys. Thanks. Glad you could make it. I thought it was interesting. I mean, the Panthers giving up their top receiving weapon to get a top passer, and maybe they're, rebuild's on, right? Good morning, Mr. Scampers. Thanks for coming. The rebuild's on in Carolina. Makes perfect sense. David Tepper is going to get, the quarterback he dreams of, but who's that quarterback going to be, right? Who do they pick first? Is it C.J. Stroud? A lot of people are speculating that. Do they swing for the fence? Do you take the Anthony Richardson chance? Oh my gosh. So much intrigue. It looks like, probably the top 4 picks. We'll see how, what Arizona does, but it looks like the top 4 quarterbacks are going to go in and see how it goes. John Bonneville said he had his last mock had the Bears trading back to 9 and taking Jackson Smith and Jigba. Probably not going wide receiver now. Terrace Marshall back in play. It looks indeed like there'll be big players in free agency. We'll see. There's some free agent wide receiver. It's like a kind of a disappointing free agent class. We've talked about that in recent weeks. If you missed it, go back into the YouTube channel here at Football Diehards and look for some of those videos where we got into like the top free agents at each position. Look at some of the shorts as well. We've got it. I think it's Stroud too, but we will see, right? We'll find all that out soon enough. There'll be plenty of time for speculation. Love the speculation season, right? 99% of everything we hear for the next month is going to turn out to have not been true or not come to pass. I don't think Laviska Shenault lives again, Troy. We'll see. Wouldn't that be great? Like a resurgence for Terrace Marshall, looks like he could have been a legit player, just landed in a horrible circumstance. I was talking about it late last season, maybe. One of the best draft picks right? Just Panthers paid a good price for him. So interesting. Josh McCown out in Carolina loves C.J. Stroud. I think that's the direction it's heading as well. But we'll find all that out soon enough. We're going to crank the draft up momentarily. Wanted to get everyone a chance to get in here and get a seat and check it out. We'll be mocking the mock as we go along, as we always do, discussing the news of the day, discussing your questions, comments about the value. Love hearing what you guys are thinking as we're seeing some of these picks made and where they're coming off. I've only done one Superflex so far, and the insane rate that quarterbacks went off was mind-boggling. Mind-boggling, people. Astronomical. I think there was like 20 quarterbacks off in the first 3 rounds. Something ridiculous. It was off the charts weird. So we'll see if that plays out this time. John Bonneville calling it now. Second week of free agency. The Falcons go after Lamar. We'll see. Jeremy Fowler, I think, said on SportsCenter, said that he doesn't think a single team will make an offer. A single team. Yeah, Terrace Marshall came in at 20 years old. I remember that during the draft, my friend Matt Waldman, a renowned draftnik, called Terrace Marshall the steal of the draft at that point. So, it's interesting. We'll see what they get at quarterback. I want to keep my, I want to keep my enthusiasm in check on some of these things. I try not to overreact. But getting back to the Lamar Jackson. Again, did a video on this. If you missed it, talked pretty much at length about this, I think on Wednesday night. But, this seems to me like the Ravens crowdsourcing their negotiations. And if nobody wants to play, I don't know how that's going to work. I almost feel like the Ravens said, look, man, we've been banging our head against this wall, trying to get this deal done for 2 years, basically, or well over a year, and we can't get anything done. We don't think Lamar is realistic in what his expectations are. Let's give him a dose of realism in the form of other teams making offers. And if nobody makes an offer, I know, collusion. I guess I guess it is, right? I mean, for whatever reasons you want to say they're colluding. I mean, I think it's the obvious reason. They don't want to make guaranteed contracts. And, saw a comment and I totally believe Anthony Richardson to Cole Scott Covey says, yes, Brian Larkin. The answer is yes. Emil, can you confirm that for me on the Brian Larkin's question in the chat? Anyway, I'm going to go ahead and have Emil start up this draft so we can kind of get it rolling and we can talk about it. But we'll talk about some of these other issues as well on the Lamar situation. I mean, last year we said what a stupid deal it was paying Deshaun Watson all that money, right? The guaranteed money and, on top of the legal issues, right? But hadn't seen him play for a while. I mean, is it then smart to do it with Lamar? I mean, if it was stupid for Watson, is it smart with Lamar to give him $230 million? So the draft is just starting. Should be cranking up any moment here. We'll get it going and we'll start commenting on the picks. Matthew Whitfield shocked if it's not Stroud to Carolina. I'm kind of in that same window there. I do think Scott's prediction here, Anthony Robinson to the Colts may well be the case. It just seems like we're going to have. Seems like the Colts would be a big swinger. We'll see what Shane Steichen has, as I mentioned it in previous videos. Done a great job with quarterbacks with various skills like Justin Herbert, Jalen Hurts. We've seen quarterbacks come in the league that weren't known as recently as Josh Allen, and Jalen Hurts, I guess, wasn't considered a great passer. They develop. We'll see if Justin Fields develops. Jump in, James. It's just starting. I saw you in there with, did I see you at pick 4? Anyway, the draft is starting up. So we'll get this thing rolling here and I'll start commenting on this. But getting back to some of the developments, like, what do we find out about Justin Fields? What is everyone's so first of all, in current best ball 10s, Justin Fields is going off as about quarterback 7. Quarterback 7. Does DJ Moore change that significantly? For me, it doesn't. I think he's probably still about the right spot. Maybe you bump him up a little bit, but I mean, he's still got to prove himself as a passer, right? I mean, we know what he can do with his legs. It's fantastic. And I'm all about that. And I'm happy to draft him at his going price. I don't know if I feel like this is something, we get those momentary bumps when there was some positive development for any given player. Like DJ Moore is going at the tail end of the wide receiver 2s. I think he'll get a bump, right? He's not in Carolina anymore. He's been very good in Carolina. And some of his skills and attributes seem to fit well. I noticed there was a tweet that I thought was interesting from one of the Pro Football Focus guys. Let me bring it up here. DJ Moore helps Field attack. This is Brad Spielberger at PFF. DJ Moore helps Justin Fields attack the intermediate area, an area he did well targeting in 2022. Fields led the NFL with a 66% completion percentage on throws of 10 to 19 yards. DJ Moore's 172 yards, 10 to 19 yards downfield from 2019 to 2022 is the second most in the NFL. Also, DJ Moore, has been playing with a series of lousy quarterbacks, and I wonder if that isn't more indicative of why things played out for him, though that depth of target, etc., played out for him. But we'll find out. Could be, obviously an upgrade to me for DJ Moore, and obviously an upgrade for Fields. Fields around 5 to 7. John Bonneville says Scott Kobe. I think he moves to 5 or 6, and Justin Fields, Matthew Whitfield, not going to give $230 million to a quarterback who is not durable. I think that to me is the big question. Guaranteed $230 million, right? He wants all the money guaranteed. I don't know if Cole. I looked at the values right now. Cole Kmet, Scott Kobe asked, "What do you think DJ Moore does to Cole Kmet's value?" Well, I don't think it does anything. Maybe it drives it down a little bit. He's going DJ Moore, Andrea says, in round 4. But Cole Kmet currently going as I think in the best ball 10s, for the last month I'm using, is going off as tight end 13. I think that's and it's like Darnell Mooney, wide receiver 4, Chase Claypool.
Come on.
Yeah, please thumbs up the video. Troy Olsen said it. So Darnell Mooney's going as a wide receiver 4, Chase Claypool going as a wide receiver 5. I mean, I wouldn't be afraid to chase those guys, in those ranges. I mean, I don't think it really changes my outlook for them. And sometimes, we get the, an extra piece can open things up for these other players. I mean, obviously Darnell Mooney is not a prototypical wide receiver 1, right? So, having a prototypical or a true wide receiver 1 might help work in his cause. Buying this trade for Fields value, I am as well. And yes, everybody, if you haven't subscribed to the YouTube channel, hit the subscribe button. If you're in the notification bell, hit the like button. If you didn't, I'm going to hit the dislike button because I like to do that. It makes me feel bad about myself. So the draft's ongoing. Quarterbacks are going at a pretty good rate, but not like like I've seen it go faster. I think this is a little more of what I'd expect. Matthew Whitfield thinks Cole Kmet cracks the top 10. Slight bump. He might. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 quarterbacks going in the first round. This season, now we're up to 9 through the round and a half. Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, Jalen Hurts. I think those are going to be the top 3 you see in every format in some order, right? And I think for the most part, I think I have seen Mahomes go first ahead of Josh Allen and ahead of Hurts. But I think any order you like them is fine for me there. Then the next quarterback came off at the 8th spot, Joe Burrow. I think that's about where he's going as for. Trevor Lawrence, that's a little aggressive there, but not out of line. Justin Herbert, expecting a bounce back season around here. Justin Fields, Lamar Jackson, Deshaun Watson. So the non-quarterback players, Christian McCaffrey, 2nd overall. Justin Jefferson went with the, I want to say the 5th pick, Travis Kelce. I like that one. Jamar Chase, Austin Eckler. So pretty much in line with what you'd expect. Scott Kobe wants to know about the trade rumors surrounding a possible Titans moving on from Derrick Henry. I also think maybe their desire or willingness to is legit. I think the realistic chances of that happening seem slim, right? Is there a team out there who is saying right now, we are a running back away from a championship? We're going to give up some capital and pay somebody $12 million because we think that's the missing piece. I don't think any team thinks that about running backs, just based on what we've seen, how teams value running backs. Are there teams out there that could use him or that, would noticeably make them better? Yeah, I think there are teams out there. Philadelphia comes to mind. Arizona. I mean, what are they going to do? They got James Conner and they have no quarterback for half the season. They're going to be running the football. So, I do think, Michael Silver reported this rumor on his new Bally Sports gig, and good for him. I think probably there are people out there who are saying, yes, maybe they're going to trade him. It seems obvious they're in rebuild mode. So, so sure. But I don't think anyone's going to be chasing him or paying them the kind of what he's worth. I think they're stuck with him for another year in Tennessee, but we'll see. Let's see. Mahomes is the 101. Troy Olsen says until he's not, just like Kelce's tight end one. I would agree with that on Kelce. I'm fine with Mahomes. I mean, I'm generally not drafting my quarterback that early. I might have in a Superflex, and I think my early rankings. I'm going to go Allen, Mahomes, Hurts. I still think Allen gives you that rushing component that you don't get from Mahomes, but we're splitting hairs with all these guys. If you look back to last season, I think it was average points per game, kind of slight lean went to Allen. Does Mahomes get more comfortable with his receiving core? Does his receiving core get better? I guess for me, I feel a little more certainty with Josh Allen. So we had Josh Allen, 25.8 per game points, fantasy points per game. I'm using kind of a generic scoring system relative for all these guys, though, with the rushing and the passing numbers. Hurts came in second at 25.7. Mahomes came in third at 25.3. So we're talking a half point per game difference there. So I think you go with your preference, right? I feel like everybody is free to. Yeah, I don't feel like there's a wrong answer here. I think everyone can make a pretty good case for the player they like. Bijan Robinson went off at these 2-9. Interesting pick. So I'm just trying to keep up with the draft here a little bit. Jake Anderson starting quarterbackless after 2 rounds. Always interesting to see how these builds work out, right? Jake's with me in a mock draft that John Bosch put together on the interwebs. Go on Twitter, look at my timeline, look at Jake's timeline. You'll see either of us there. So we're starting out. Scott Kobe started out quarterback and a pair of wide receivers. Web Slinger 77, a pair of quarterbacks in Christian McCaffrey. He's got Prescott and Tua Tagovailoa. Picked up the 5th-year option on Tua. So I think a lot of teams are revealing their hand, and like this whole notion that we don't want Lamar is maybe they're happy with what they have. In the case of Miami, it seems like they are if they're going with that. JR 1124, Josh Allen and a pair of wideouts, including Stephon Diggs, a little stack there. Amon-Ra or AJ Brown. Woodman 58, Hurts and a pair of running backs, including Bijan Robinson. Jim Furry there, Justin Jefferson, Cousins, a little pair up there. Mark Andrews. Jake Anderson goes wide receiver in the 3rd pick. So we've got Jake Anderson in a super flex going with Travis Kelce, Cooper Kupp, and Jalen Waddle. Darville taking the same approach, Chase Lamb and Breece Hall. Scope 21, Burrow, Hill, Kenneth Walker. Emel's got a running back and a quarterback. Deshaun Watson is his 2nd round at 2-4. Austin Eckler is his, and now he's going with a wide receiver. A little balanced approach. Nicholas, 1. Did I say that right, Nicholas? Did I do an improper emphasis there? I think I did. Trevor Lawrence, Lamar Jackson. A little, we'll see what happens with Lamar Jackson. Justin Herbert and Barkley for Dynasty 27. Voice and Fuego. Troy, Justin Fields, and Jonathan Taylor. So interesting starts there. See some of the quarterback angst early on, but not as much as I've seen in other drafts. I'll be honest with you, in part due to people like Jake and Darville. And again, this is not a wrong approach, right? I love seeing how some of these things play out. This is why we do these early drafts. Oh, sad news. The Vikings just announced the passing of the great Bud Grant. Horrible. Sad news for Vikings fans. All right, catch up on some of the comments here. Let's see. Are we worried that Bijan might not live up to his high draft capital? Yes, we're always worried about that with rookies, but it seems like people have been very aggressive on him. I'm just catching up with the rookies. As you all know, I watch NFL football during the regular season. People like John Lau, Matt Waldman are friends who pay more attention to this than I do. I start listening to them now and doing a little work on my own to get a better feel. John Bonneville obviously pays a lot of attention to these. And I think that's John's comment. Bijan can run wide receiver routes. He's an offensive weapon, not just a guy you can run into the backs of your offensive line. He's special. And I think that you hear the generational talent thrown around out there, which I think is probably an overused term, but certainly seems to be how he's viewed. I think the question for me is, does he make it out of the top 10 of the draft, right? I think we'll see 4 quarterbacks. It seems reasonable. So Scott Kobe, echoing all of our thoughts here with I hope he doesn't go somewhere where he can't flourish. So we're rolling right along here in terms of the draft, well into round 4. And some interesting builds. I think most we're looking at 1, 2, 3, 4 teams with 2 quarterbacks right now. 4 teams with 1 quarterback right now. And a couple teams with no quarterbacks. So we'll see how long they carry that out. I did that pretty long in the Scott Fish Bowl. Dame Overboard, how did you do your quarterbacks in the Scott Fish? Remind me, because I think I want to pay attention to what you say about this more than I pay attention to what I say about this. Emo taking Jordan Love like he's going to be the starter. Look, after the comments yesterday, let's discuss this briefly. I mean, Mark Murphy's comments yesterday, did he speak? Did he misspeak? Because here's what he said. right? Like he was asked if there's a scenario where Aaron Rodgers is still starting for Green Bay in 2023. He said, yeah. I mean, unless if things don't work out the way we want, yeah. So, okay. Like, I mean, he's basically saying if things work out the way he wants, he's gone. So, seems like maybe we had talked a couple weeks ago about Bob McGinn's comments where they're past it, right? They're done. I mean, look, if he's got to stick around, the money says he's got to stick around. But I think they'll try to make a trade. And there's Jake Anderson getting his first quarterback. Darville did not. So you got Daniel Jones, who, by the way, is not without some upside there, right? Rushing upside all by itself, I want to say. So interesting pick there. I kind of like Daniel Jones a little bit. I want to go back to last year. Where did he finish on the season? Quarterback 11. That's pretty okay. Think he could improve if they get him some receiving weapons? Probably so. That rushing equity, though, I think is going to stick around. I mean, it's been a constant throughout his career. So, and I think we're all counting on Brian Daboll to kind of do some Josh Allen-y things. You know, not that Daniel Jones is Josh Allen, right? That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying Josh Allen came into the league with a lot of questions, and Brian Daboll, as his offensive coordinator, helped him address a lot of those questions. So thinking that Brian Daboll can help address some questions. Look, I think we already saw it. Like the turnovers were limited last year. I mean, we've seen the improvement. So interesting there. Scott Kobe pondering his next pick. Will it be a quarterback or love before Rodgers? Love before Rodgers is where it went. It's interesting. What is Rodgers? So, like to me, Rodgers, I think will be overdrafted again. We've addressed this in a previous video. If you missed it, go watch all the videos. Go watch the shorts too. Appreciate that. Yeah, I think Rodgers. I think Rodgers' price will obviously shoot up. Right, he's great weapons around him. It's a great defense. There'll be a lot to like if he ends up with the New York Jets. I'm with Matt Whitfield. I sit here now every minute waiting waiting for the Rodgers news to drop. It's coming at some point. Something's coming. I mean, in the next few days, we'll see when. But every time my phone vibrates while I'm laying in bed at 5 a.m, I'm expecting it to be that, and I'm ready to jump up. I got my boots next to the bed so I can jump up and get to work. How do we feel about that? Love before Rodgers. Interesting pick. Do we like Jordan Love? I mean, it's like Geno Smith ahead of Aaron Rodgers, Daniel Jones ahead of Aaron Rodgers, a lot of players ahead of C.J. Stroud ahead of Aaron Rodgers. Ridley in the 5th round. So Dame went Mahomes at 104 and Tua at 44. And had a fair amount of success. So, and I kind of followed a similar approach. I did not have that success. I think I went early. I went Justin Herbert as my first quarterback, and I want to say I waited way late and got like, do I have to confess this right now? Jameis Winston, I think was one of them. I did end up with Jared Goff, right? So I got Jared Goff way late, and so he ended up playing a lot. But I mean, you can wait on your second quarterback, I guess is the point. And there's Jake Anderson. He waited on his second quarterback against Anthony Richardson. I think it's fair second QB at this point in the draft. I think this is a interesting play. Trey Lance as the first quarterback for Darville. How do we feel about Trey Lance? Brock Purdy had the surgery on Friday, apparently successful yesterday. Doesn't sound like it was the major deal. Just sounded like the little kind of, the more minor of the possible surgeries needed. So he'll start throwing in 3 months. He'll be cleared to practice in 6 months. That's pretty close to the start of the season. The Trey Lance as the starter is feeling a little better to me now than if there had been no injury, I think it would have easily been Brock Purdy. Right? So Ridley in the 5th round. Troy Olsen thinks that's a great value, and it may well be. But I think it is Superflex. Honestly, I think I've seen him going in like the 4th round for the most point. Troy in the drafts I've been in, 4th. So, I mean, I think the Superflex kind of pushed him down a little bit. I don't think that's crazy. Do you think that's high? Yes. Scott Kobe. Didn't the 49ers have a losing record with Lance before he got injured? Yes. Matthew Whitfield. Rodgers will pass for 30-plus touchdowns with the Jets. You can take that to the bank. Level will be in the 20 to 25 range. Well, I guess I think the question for Rodgers in there, he went to scope 21 as the second quarterback. I think the obvious question here is the possible range of outcomes is still Aaron Rodgers doesn't play. I do not think he's going to walk away from $60 million, but at this point, you can make an argument. I think in a mock draft, I would probably be more aggressive on him and play him like that. Troy Olsen still on the Brock Purdy bandwagon. I kind of am, but I think that's pushing the timing is going to be a little worrisome. John Bonneville loves Scope's team, so I think it's working out pretty well. Joe Burrow, Tyreek Hill, Kenneth Walker, Travis Etienne, and Aaron Rodgers in the first 5 rounds. I think that's pretty solid. Let's look at some of the builds here. Scott Kobe going with Patrick Mahomes, 3 high-end receivers. I love those 3 wideouts. Devontae Adams, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Devontae Smith against TJ Hawkinson, tight end. I've been landing an awful lot. He's the second tight end off the board, which doesn't surprise me. Troy still all in on Kyle Pitts. That's a little surprising. Gets doubles up on the tight end. So 2 quarterbacks, 2 running backs, 2 tight ends for Troy Olsen to start it out, including Kyle Pitts and George Kittle. Look, if Purdy's in, I'm all about George Kittle this year, but I don't know if Purdy's in. Matthew Whitfield, Lance on a short leash. They have to throw him out there until he gets hurt or struggles. We'll see. Dynasty 27, Joe Herbert. Think of a friend of ours who might be in this chat right now. Justin Herbert, Saquon Barkley, Deebo Samuel, CJ Stroud, Jahmyr Gibbs, Jackson Smith, and Jigba. The dynasty total tag gives this away, right? A very young team, a lot of upside there, a lot of unproven talent, obviously coming in the rookies. But who's afraid of drafting rookies anymore? I think everyone is realizing the value. This is an interesting draft. Nicholas won. Trevor Lawrence, Lamar Jackson, Nick Chubb, Garrett Wilson, Terry McLaurin, and Christian Watson. I think this is a pretty solid start. Emil Cadillac, Austin Eckler, Deshaun Watson, T. Higgins, Jordan Love, Amari Cooper, Tyler Algier, like that as well. The Jordan Love is going to be interesting. That's a gamble, we call that. So we talked about scope. Let's go Darville, Jamar Chase, CeeDee Lamb, Breece Hall, Najee Harris, Trey Lance. We'll see if he grabs another quarterback right here. I'll be interested to see. Jake Gander, you got Jared Goff. I think that Jared Goff, that's pretty damn late for Jared Goff. Right? Holy smokes. Jake Anderson now adds Dalvin Cook to the mix in round 6. That could pay off. Jim Furry, Justin Jefferson, Kirk Cousins, nice little stack there. Mark Andrews, Ramondre Stevenson, Damian Pierce, DJ Moore, solid. Woodsman 58. Let's see if he gets another quarterback here. He's got Jalen Hurts, Bijan Robinson, Josh Jacobs, Chris Olave, DeAndre Hopkins. I like a lot of pieces about this. We'll see who DeAndre Hopkins is playing for. Goes Dallas Goedert. Choose the next quarterback as well. JR 1124, Josh Allen, Stephon Diggs, little stack there. AJ Brown, Tony Pollard, top 10 back last year. Geno Smith, player I like, maybe overlooked in these drafts. And Joe Mixon. And Webslinger 77, Christian McCaffrey, Prescott and Tagovailoa, DK Metcalf and Calvin Ridley, Javonte Williams. We'll see how that knee's holding up. I know Matthew Berry put out a piece that I thought, he does all his chatting at the combine. And one of the things he said is watch for Denver, who they acquire at running back. If they're going after a Kareem Hunt level player, it's a lack in free agency. It's a lack of confidence in Williams. It could go either way, they're saying. It was a complicated injury, not just an ACL for Javonte Williams. Scott Kobe, not on the quarterback bandwagon yet, grabs Drake London and Aaron Jones in round 7. Gotta like that. John Bonneville didn't really understand the Robert Woods to Texas move at all. Does that indicate a Cooks trade? I believe that's what they've been working on, is a Cooks trade. I don't know if that helps fill that void, right? I mean, I'm kind of with you. I saw somebody put out a tweet, basically this is a, kind of like a locker room and leadership signing. And I'm kind of with that. I think he brings a lot to the table. We'll see where John Mechie's at. I haven't heard a lot about him. The draft pick last year, who dealt with a Hodgins lymphoma, I believe. So hopefully he comes back. John Bonneville also fading Mixon. I think I kind of am as well. We'll see. Sounds like it's very possible he could be a cap casualty. Jim Furry got a second quarterback, and it's Derek Carr. I think that's good value for Derek Carr in a 2 quarterback league. I think this last series of quarterbacks going, Jared Goff and Derek Carr, I feel okay about it at this point in draft. I really would. Looking pretty damn good, actually. Interesting builds here. I like what I'm seeing. We had some of the quarterback early teams. I think are like I feel like Nicholas won who went with Trevor Lawrence, Lamar Jackson as his top 2 picks. Obviously needs some running backs, but starting out with Nick Chubb. Although I did see an interesting take on that. About maybe we're going to see a little pass happier offense. I think that's true. Troy also mentions Mixon's off-field stuff or his sister's off-field stuff or however that plays out. If you didn't hear the most recent development, there was a shooting at Joe Mixon's house. There were some kids from around the neighborhood that were involved. One of them shot. The latest word is that maybe Mixon's sister is a suspect in that. Don't know for sure. And yes, John Mechie is in remission. That's what I've heard as well. But I haven't seen anything, regarding return this year. It's just great that he's in remission and healthy. It might be a long road back for him. We don't know. So that would leave them still a little, either way. Even if John Mechie's 100%. I mean, the departure of Brandon Cooks would be a big deal. And so what Aaron Wilson has reported, by the way, on that is that they were, I think he reported late last month, they were working to honor his request to be traded. He has nothing to do with the rebuild, has made it pretty clear. Wanted to be traded during the season last year. Did not get his wish then. Expect him to get it now. All right, then. So I guess we're all waiting with bated breath for Scott Kobe's second quarterback. Scott, how do you feel about how this is playing out? I mean, was this your strategy going in to wait on that second quarterback and kind of hammer some of the values? I mean, you've obviously taken advantage. I love those top 3 receivers there. Devontae Adams, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Devontae Smith, followed by TJ Hawkinson and Drake London, Aaron Jones. I mean, love the value of all that. I'd be interested to hear how you feel about the quarterback situation there. If anyone else has any comments, teams you like, teams you don't like. I know John mentioned he loves Scope's team. I think it's working out to be a pretty good team. Just added Isaiah Pacheco and Jerry Jeudy since we last visited it. Fairly interesting. Again, looking at some of the rookies that are going. Jahmyr Gibbs went in round 5. Bijan Robinson, I haven't seen him get out of round 2. This is a super flex. I thought he might here. He did not. I haven't seen him get out of round 2, I don't think, in a draft I've been in. Anybody else seeing him go any later or much later than that? I think the wide receivers are where you start getting the questions. I mean, I don't think anyone's pretending this is a super strong wide receiver class. Smith and Jigba seems to be the guy that really came on. Yes, Scott Kobe says it was his strategy as he loves drafting wide receivers. And we have talked about this both on and offline, trying to follow the direction the NFL is taking in terms of where offenses are going, and it's the passing game, right? Where are the teams investing their money? Where are the teams' resources going? What are they spending on? They're spending on quarterbacks and wide receivers. And I am also a big Devontae Smith guy, so it's a pretty solid start. I'm just curious to see where it ends up at quarterback. I think we all get the quarterback FOMO, the fear of missing out at some point. I think Scott does not suffer from that. I think Scott feels pretty damn good about where he's at. Going back, WebSlinger77, adding Khalil Herbert. What do we think about David Montgomery? I feel like he will not be a Chicago Bear. I think this is good news for Khalil Herbert. The Bears obviously have a ton of draft capital now. John Bonneville mentions Addison coming into the combine smaller. I thought a little bit slower than I thought. I kind of, it just seems like, the enthusiasm about this receiving class has not been great. And that a guy who didn't run the 40 is the guy who came out looking fantastic. So, and that is Jackson Smith and Jigba from Ohio State, who did not run his 40, but nobody seems real worried about it. Interesting play there. So, everyone except Scott has 2 quarterbacks at least. We've got a team with 3 now. Jake Anderson jumps in with Bryce Young. We'll see. Is he big enough? I'm just kidding. So 2 rookies on that one. And probably rookies that are going to be thrown right into the fray. Interesting. Also, in an ideal situation, you start 2 quarterbacks, but you don't have to start. This is true. And that's the thing, right? Like, so we had to set this up as a 2 quarterback, but it's essentially a super flex for our purposes. And you do not have to. You do not have to start two quarterbacks in a Superflex. So, fair point. Potential landing spots for Montgomery. I think, every time I think running back, I think Carolina is going to have a need at running back. We don't know what they're going to do with Deonta Foreman. Doesn't seem like, I haven't heard a lot of talk about them trying to re-sign him. And there goes Addison right there. I haven't seen a lot that there's a huge effort to go there. Kyler Murray went off here, by the way, as the short quarterback for Darville. And I think everyone's fading him for the obvious reason. Quarterback 3 is probably the value you're looking for, according to John Bonneville. That is spot on. Mr. Scampers, Woodman also waiting on a second quarterback. Oh, I missed that. Holy smokes. He is. Interesting. There goes that second quarterback. And a guy I've been getting late in some of the best balls. And some of mine that we're starting early on the Football Diehards. By the way, Football Diehards radio program on tonight, 7 to 9 p.m. Eastern time. We'll be doing a special program sitting in. Dempsey and I, Jeff Mans is off next Thursday. So we'll be in the heat of free agency there. So check that out Thursday at the Jeff Mans time slot. What is that, 4 to 6 Eastern time? And then we'll be back on Sunday. There's a fantasy baseball draft next Saturday, a week from today. So we'll be on Sunday that weekend. But watch for us. We'll be going through all the free agent. And Dempsey and I will be, dialed in on all the issues that we've talked about in the videos the last couple of days this week. The free agency situations, the Lamar Jackson situation. We'll probably get into Tua a little bit there. We'll see if Woodman gets a quarterback here. Bears drop Montgomery if Bijan falls to them at 9. I think Bears might well move on I think they'll move on before that. No, not a quarterback for Woodman. Now it's getting interesting. Deontay and Pickens are great weapons, and Steelers always draft wide receiver. I would agree with that. And I think I've been getting Pickens pretty damn late. Everyone likes the fantasy baseball drafts preempting diehards. Also, I know we are hearing from Brian Larkin that he signed up for the site today. You can do that. Use the promo code DIEHARDS. Get a 15% discount right now. And yes, the magazine is part of that package, and we'll have more news on the magazines coming here in a few in coming days. Looking forward to all that. What is this, Emil? Year what? 33? Oh my gosh. We've been doing this a long time. John Bonneville, a Cam Akers hater. Don't love that. 34th season. Holy smokes. I've been corrected. Good Lord, I'm old. Almost as old as Emil. Cam Akers, though, does it bother you? This is a pretty late pick. I kind of like this pick. John Bonneville, Cam Akers hater. I've been drafting him fairly, earlier than this, but obviously not in, 2 quarterback or Superflex leagues. Look, he was the only game in town for the Rams late last season, and they treated him like this. I wonder if they don't treat him like that again. Tell me more about this, John Bonneville, as a hater. Because I'm interested. Because I think we're all kind of been a little bit skeptical. I just thought the usage was great down the stretch last year, and the production was good, considering he didn't have anything on the offensive line. What were they? Like 11 different offensive lines. I will tweet those out, Troy Olsen. And yes, the magazine drafts are a lot of fun, and some really competitive people and some high-end thinkers in there, including Scott Kobe. Interesting. So let's go back. I've got an eye on you, Woodman. 58. Where's that second quarterback? So we've got two teams with 3 quarterbacks. And that is Jake Anderson, who's gone with a little bit of a youth movement there. By the way, Christian Kirk, Mike Evans, Dalvin Cook. I think these are great picks in this range. Their O-line was really bad. It really was. It was horrible. So one of the things I've been thinking about, John, and you guys can kick this around a little bit, we've seen teams in the past, when they make a concerted effort, you could turn your offensive line around in a year. We can think of teams in recent memory, the Chargers, the Bengals. It took a little while to come together last year. Kansas City Chiefs. Yeah, and so I think you could turn that around. If I'm the Rams, that's what I'm focusing on. I know that's easier said than done, but teams have done it in the recent past. Andrea likes Akers. I'm kind of in on him as long as he's not going too early, right? I think I feel like this is great value. Just looking at the running backs that went ahead of him, I feel okay about that. Going to be low efficiency, don't love the talent. I think that's fair. I think there's a point we could say John Bonneville where the Rams didn't like that talent, or the Mentals. Maybe that's it. That Kamara snipe tilted me. Troy Olsen says. Kamara went with round 9. I don't know, man. I don't feel good about Alvin Kamara's outlook right now. I think he's going to miss some time. How much? But I think there will be other running backs that miss time. Let's talk about Breece Hall going in the round 3-7. Is everyone really confident that he's going to be back and hitting the ground at full speed after a week 4 ACL tear? Was he week 4 or week 7? I have to look. I should look. I should know this by heart, shouldn't I? It was week 7. Are we really totally confident in that? Are we confident in Javonte Williams? I don't think we should be confident in that. Just based on what we saw last year from, and like everyone's different. But, J.K. Dobbins, Gus Edwards both took a little time to get back on track, more time than we expected. That doesn't mean these guys will or won't, but it's just something that I'm being mindful of, more so with Williams. I think I'm throwing it out the window with Hall. Like, it's funny how we get selective in our views of these players, right? Like, with Javonte Williams, I'm a little concerned because it was an LCL and the ACL. So oftentimes when it's the multiple injuries, they wait until the first injury heals to do the surgery so that they can get right in on the ACL rehab, right? They don't want them, this is the way they do ACLs now. They get right into the rehab. If they have like an MCL or an LCL or whatever, they usually let that heal and it takes a few weeks. So a charge. Brian Larkin would love to see Paul Charchian in one of these drafts. Well, we'll have to make that happen. Charch has been around a long time. Good friend. So there goes Jimmy Garoppolo. I think that's pretty damn late. Jimmy Garoppolo's got it. So Woodman 58 gets his second quarterback, shows the patience, and it is Jimmy Garoppolo. Mac Jones was a viable option there. So I want to say a safe option. I feel like safer than Matthew Stafford. I feel like safer than Brock Purdy. Look, the Rams, Sean McVay and Les Snead both talked about it. They're locked in, but we've heard rumors of trades. If you read Matthew Berry's Combine piece, there are people at the Combine, personnel folks, who feel like Matthew Stafford is shot. The arm is done. I don't think the Rams can afford for his arm to be done because I don't think they're going to be able to move him. They did give Allen Robinson permission to seek a trade. We'll see where that leads. Jacoby Myers, one of the top free agent wide receivers, going very late after the likes of Zay Flowers and others. Interesting. Jamal Williams, touchdown machine, going very late. Hall will be back in week 4. I think that's kind of what I'm expecting too. Andrea throws that out. Breece Hall maybe getting back to around week 4. I think that's probably a fair expectation. Maybe a little optimistic, but that's where I'm at for sure. So totally agree with that. John Bonneville, Garoppolo to Raiders, and they draft Levis. I agree with half of that at least. Maybe they do draft Levis, right? Is it just me, or does Levis win the has the look competition? He looks like a quarterback to me. I don't know. I don't study. John I know studies this much more carefully than me. John Laub does. If you go to the website right now, John Laub's rookie assessments are up. His top wide receivers, quarterbacks, running backs, wide receivers, and tight ends. We'll have part 2 on the rest of the pieces. But he likes C.J. Stroud, Bryce Young, Anthony Richardson. He likes Hendon Hooker too. Ahead of that, and he has Will Levis at 5. I think Will Levis, is like the guy that looks the part to me, right? And I don't know that makes him good or not good. Would be interested to hear some of your thoughts in there as well on the rookie quarterback class, because I think we're going to see 4 of them go off pretty damn quick in the NFL draft. I think Dobbins was back. Hi, Royal. I think Dobbins was back, but then he had to get a second procedure to clean up some of the scar tissue that didn't heal appropriately. Scott Kobe in the Boston area, worried about the Patriots receiving core with Mac Jones. We've got a offensive coordinator there now. Maybe that helps. Bill O'Brien back in. Knows how to call plays. I don't know if he knows how to run a team. According to Texans, he does not. History suggests. But also, there's been some talk. DeAndre Hopkins and the Patriots. DeAndre Hopkins is talking about Dallas. So we'll see there. But yeah, Dobbins came back and then had to sit out a little while. They slow rolled Edwards a little longer than that. So, Dobbins came back, I think, had one good game. Then they really limited him after that, and then he had to have a second procedure. And Woodman goes with John Bonneville's Vegas quarterback handcuff. Well done, Jimmy Garoppolo and Will Levis, and that is John Bonneville's prediction here. Just start looking again at some of these teams. I'd like to hear your impressions on which team you think is the approach you would have taken, or that you best like, or some of the values that you see on this draft board. I see a number of values. As always, the 2QB format, Superflex format, skews where some of these players are going. You're not going to get, Saquon Barkley, maybe so. Maybe in the second round. I haven't seen it, but it's getting close. But guys like, we're seeing Pollard, Stevenson, Harris, ETN, Henry down around, probably more than you would see them in most drafts. I think we're looking at after those first couple rounds. I mean, you're not going to see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 quarterbacks go in the first 2 rounds, 11 quarterbacks in the first 26 picks, right? So that obviously depresses prices on everyone else. When Lamb was coming in the NFL, for the New England game last year, which I believe was week 3, yeah, I mean, he came back and then had to take a seat. That was the issue with him. And they feel like they brought him back a little quickly, or at least he wasn't quite ready. He thought he was ready in August. And I think we all kind of thought, based on the fact that I think he was in the final preseason game, or the third preseason game was Dobbins. And then Edwards was hurt the first week of September last year. So I think, we kind of think of this as a full year for guys with the ACLs to come back. I think sometimes it can be longer. And so that's just, for me, Breece Hall hurt in week 7. I mean, I've drafted him in the second round. I feel like that's probably a little overly aggressive. I've seen Javonte Williams go in that range too. I think that's overly aggressive for him as well. But I'm okay with it, right? This is very early. We'll see how it plays out. So looking at, again, would like to hear some of your thoughts on some of the value plays you see here. I mean, I think for the quarterbacks, for me, some of the guys that stand out, I think Geno Smith is a pretty good value there to JR1124. Better value for Jared Goff to Darville. I think that's a great value there in a super flex. And Kyler Murray also, and maybe Sam Howell getting a 4th quarterback who's the likely starter for his team. So I think Darville's, he's shored things up at the quarterback position for sure, considering he didn't get his first quarterback until round 5, and that first quarterback was Trey Lance, who we're not sure he's going to start, right? By the way, Trey Lance going ahead of Aaron Rodgers. Interesting. Anthony Richardson going ahead of Aaron Rodgers. But I think some of these later quarterbacks, Derek Carr value, Kenny Pickett a value, Jimmy Garoppolo, I'm going to assume he's going to be a starter somewhere. I think those are pretty good values. I think Sean Tucker is someone John Laub will be liking as well. Scott Kobe gets props for waiting on running back and getting 2 starters with receiving upside. I would agree with that. Scott Kobe always does this. This is not new for him. I think Scott's lineup is looking very solid. I'm not surprised by that. Looking at Webslinger 77, Christian McCaffrey, I think in a super flex, taking him second all is a pretty good play, right? So especially coming back and getting the 2 quarterbacks. Tua Tagovailoa, are the concussions a concern? For me, yes. For Miami, apparently not. Again, if you missed it, they just picked up his 5th-year option. There's been a lot of talk. If Tom Brady unretires, will he show up in Miami? I guess. They seem to be, they keep saying they're all in on Tua, and then they do things that back up their words, right? And I think that's, what we have to look for this time of year. Teams are going to say stuff all the time, right? But when their actions kind of, reflect what they're saying, I mean, that means something to me. I hope those judo lessons are going well, Tua. Beyond that, love the Metcalf and Ridley picks there. Javonte Williams, we'll see how that plays out. We may know more in the coming weeks as free agency plays out again. If you see them in play for a key running back or a higher-end running back or somebody who can handle the load, watch. That's probably not a great sign for Javonte Williams, but we'll know more. Khalil Herbert, the likely starter, I think. Yeah, Tua's doing the judo. John Bonneville mentioned that. And so he's learning how to fall. I think judo is the great martial art for that. I know some people have reported it's jujitsu. It's not. It's judo, whole different thing because of the falling. I mean, that's part of judo. Is a big part of judo is understanding how to fall. It's all about throws and rolling off the throw. So great thing for him to do. John also mentioned Breece Hall was on pace to be like running back 3. I agree. I think that's why we're all bullish on him. The upside is huge. And so I'm not knocking anyone who's taking them early because I'm one of those people taking them earlier than I feel like I probably should. This is a redraft, Troy Olson says, but in some dynasty drafts I have been in, Henry and Cook are going round 8 or later, and that's a bargain even dynasty. I would agree with that. Look, you got to win. You got to win games in dynasty, right? I think a lot of times in dynasty we overplay the age factor a little bit. I mean, yes, you've got to be mindful of it, and you want to build for the long term, but you have to play now. And these guys are still playing pretty well. So I'm keen on Web Slinger 77 has some really good talent. Evan Engram, very nice. Jordan Addison is, Zay Flowers, 2 rookie wide receivers there, but he comes back with Jacoby Myers, so I think it's going to be a solid play. Jerick McKinnon, Odell Beckham had his workout yesterday. 12 teams showed up. None of them were the Cowboys. JR1124, Josh Allen, Geno Smith, and Mac Jones. That's a solid trio of quarterbacks, all with pretty good job security. I like that. Stephon Diggs, the mini stack, A.J. Brown, Tony Pollard, Joe Mixon, James Cook. That's another guy. Matthew Berry said we all might be drafting him too late, that the Bills seem to have plans for him. We'll see what free agency the draft says about that. I think I've seen Scott Kobe wants to know about Breece Hall in round 3. Could he sneak into round 2? I've seen him go in round 2 and some. So I'm thinking it'll settle down, and round 3 will be most likely. Maybe he falls a little bit if we get bad news, and I'll be like, if the news is it's going to be a slow starter, he's not going to be ready for opening week, and that drives the price down, I'll be all in on that. You still have to win late in the season, and we all know how running backs coming out of nowhere can be good news. Breece Hall did that last year, could do it again this year. John Bonneville, Jake getting good value. So Jake and I have mentioned we're doing a mock draft on Twitter right now with John Bosch. So we've been looking at the rookies a little bit. Chain and Downs are both great plays as well. And depending on the landing spot, could be fantastic plays. So Woodsman 58, very impressive patience on the quarterbacks on that second quarterback. And I think it paid off with Jimmy Garoppolo. We'll see if Will Levis, if John Bonneville's prediction comes true, that's a super good play. But he also added Ryan Tannehill, who I have no reason to believe is not going to be the starting quarterback of the Tennessee Titans as we pick right here, right? So interesting. Scampers approves of Scott Kobe. I think Scott Kobe, a very successful high-stakes player. I think we can all be on board with that. So I'm with you there. So there's, you can have an approach to a draft, right? And you can stick with it. And, I think I tend to adjust a little more based on the values. I think Scott tends to stick with his approach, and it works out well for him. He's had a great deal of success. He's clearly stuck with it here, and the results are pretty impressive. Jim Furry, let's see. By the way, going back to Whitman, though, waiting on that second quarterback, second, third, and fourth quarterback, I think he's got a solid cadre there. Bijan Robinson, Josh Jacobs, like that start at running back. Chris Olave, DeAndre Hopkins, Mike Williams in round 7, great value. James Conner, I think, is great value. Marquise Brown, we'll see what he is. Zach Evans, he'll run it all the way in. I have it on good authority. Good, it's a solid draft. Jim Furry, Justin Jefferson, and Kirk Cousins to get the ball rolling. I think you could do worse there. Then he added Derek Carr, and I like Brock Purdy too. I'm getting increasingly concerned with the timing of that recovery, and it certainly opens the door to Trey Lance, and we'll see how it plays out. But man, if Purdy's playing, I think that's the desired outcome of Kyle Shanahan, because I think Brock Purdy is what, in Kyle Shanahan's view, the second best thing to Kyle Shanahan being under center, right? Which I think is what Kyle Shanahan wants. He wants a guy who thinks like him and executes how he wants. It seemed like Purdy did that. But Derek Carr as your quarterback too there is great. I like the running backs just fine. Ramondre Stevenson, Damian Pierce, J.K. Dobbins at a good price. Like the wide receivers as well. Justin Jefferson, DJ Moore, Tyler Lockett, Cortland Sutton. A little talk that maybe he's available via trade. But either way, expecting the Denver offense to be better seems like a reasonable expectation because I don't think it can get much worse. Kareem Hunt, Deontay Foreman, nice picks late in the draft. Jake Anderson, again, waited on his first quarterback until round 4. Then came back, got Daniel Jones, Anthony Richardson, Bryce Young. That's interesting, man. That's a gutsy move. I think expecting both those rookies to be starting quarterbacks is not a huge reach, though. So nicely done there. Love the Travis Kelce pick. I would make that a lot. I don't know if I'd do it in Superflex as much, but I'm doing the hell out of it in redraft and regular best balls. Cooper Kupp, great value there for me. Cooper Kupp is my wide receiver 1. We'll see if I adjust that based on the Matthew Stafford situation. Jalen Waddle, solid play with Tua in there as well. Dalvin Cook is the running back 1 in round 6. If you wait till round 6 you get Dalvin Cook, I'd be okay with that. Mike Evans, see who that quarterback is. Christian Kirk, I don't think Calvin Ridley squashes his value completely. I think this is pretty fair. Elliott, Gibson, maybe a chain I like the best of that bunch right now. Downs as well. Adam Thielen, not on a team at the moment. I'm guessing he will be. Scampers jumped in. I love Web Slinger aside from Javonte there with Dobbins comp laid out. I agree. I like it as well, Scampers. That was the one pick that stood out to me as like I wasn't comfortable with, but the rest of the draft is fantastic. And even at that, I mean, maybe, it's entirely possible, Williams comes back quicker than we think. So I looked at Jake, like a lot to like about Jake's team. Darville, I thought this one went reasonably well with the later quarterbacks. I mean, to me, Trey Lance is a question, but maybe he's not. Maybe I'm like overthinking this because I'm in the Purdy tank, and I think he should probably de facto starter. But again, the timing is makes it increasingly unlikely he's ready week 1. I mean, if he's not going to be practicing for 6 months, that's an issue. But I love the Goff. I think Sam Howell, the likely starter. We'll see what Washington does in the draft. If they do something, might be the best quarterbacks are gone. I don't know. But I do like Kyler Murray will be back at some point. Breece Hall, Najee Harris, DeAndre Swift, the only 3 running backs on the roster. That might be a little dicey to me, but
come on.
Swift turns into a thing. Like the wide receivers here, though, an awful lot. Jamar Chase, CeeDee Lamb in the first 2 rounds, fantastic. George Pickens, tons of upside. I'm not sleeping on Donovan Peoples-Jones. I know there's been some talk that maybe the Browns want a little more speed in their offense. I think they've got some there. Elijah Moore, maybe a much better play if there is Aaron Rodgers. Scope 21, Joe Burrow. I think this is a pretty good team. Joe Burrow and Aaron Rodgers as the only 2 quarterbacks. Maybe he'll grab a body here at the end, maybe one of the handcuffs. One of the things I kind of do a lot in a 2-quarterback league or a super flex is I'll wait real late. And if I get Justin Herbert, I'm not afraid to get Chase Daniel, right? Joe Burrow and Aaron Rodgers are fine. Tyreek Hill, great play. I love these 2 running backs, Kenneth Walker and Travis Etienne at this price. Jerry Jeudy really came off strong as the season wore down. Maybe a sign of some things to come with he and Russell Wilson. Isaiah Pacheco, I think a solid play. Jahan Dotson and Tony, I think these are great ranges for these guys. Cole Kmet, solid pick. Elijah Mitchell, I think, is going to have a role there. Darnell Mooney, I think, maybe going about where I've seen him go. Like a lot of this. Greg Dulcich, maybe tight end with some upside there. With Sean Payton, he's used the tight end in the past. Emil has gone with Austin Eckler, Deshaun Watson, T. Higgins, Jordan Love. I think that's the interesting one to me. A little roll of the dice, but I think based on what we're hearing this week, not an unreasonable roll of the dice. Amari Cooper, a wide receiver I'm getting later than I think he should go. Tyler Algier, Darren Waller, Jamal Williams, Brian Robinson Jr. Have we forgotten about him? Jameson Williams, Detroit, and Jamal Williams. So I had that backwards. Jameson Williams, kind of a forgotten commodity too. If you're in best balls, remember, you may be down the ranks a little bit. KJ Osborne, the de facto wide receiver 2. In Minnesota with Thielen gone, Rashad Bateman, a wide receiver 1. If he comes back, a lot of upside here. Michael Thomas, little talk that he's working out a new deal. And Isaiah Likely, I think we all like him a little bit late in the draft. Interesting picks. Desmond Ridder as a quarterback 3 until something changes in Atlanta, and they keep saying it won't. We'll see. Nicholas, Lawrence, Jackson, Chubb. Love this trio of wide receivers here. Well, Garrett Wilson, Terry McLaurin, Christian Watson, David Montgomery, Rashad White, solid. Treylon Burks might work. Miles Sanders, we'll see where he goes. This is a pretty good draft there. Nicholas 51, Chika Conquo. I think Terrace Marshall. Yeah, John Bonneville mentioned great value, and I think it is. Dynasty 27 had the youthful team early on. Justin Herbert, Saquon Barkley, Deebo Samuel, C.J. Stroud, Jahmyr Gibbs, Jackson Smith and Jigba, Quentin Johnson, Zach Charbonnet, Alvin Kamara, Dalton Schultz. A couple defenses in there. Dalton Kincaid rising up the ranks. Hyatt, Bass, Hill, and Boyce and Fuego, Troy Olsen. Yeah, but that P. Ryan pick is a good pick there. JR 1124. Boyce and Fuego, Justin Fields, Jonathan Taylor, Russell Wilson, Derrick Henry, Kyle Pitts, and George Kittle. Tell me about that 2 tight ends there, Troy. Interested to hear your take on that. Michael Pittman, Chris Godwin, great values to me. Pushed down a little bit again because of the Superflex format. A.J. Dillon, Matthew Stafford, I think if he's playing, is a good third quarterback. Leonard Fournette, we'll see where he lands. We've got some rookie picks here. Wan'Dale Robinson, kind of a forgotten play. Alexander Madison, we'll see where he ends up. Hunter Renfrow and Devin Singletary, we'll see where he ends up. Good draft, everybody. Well done. More thoughts on some of these players or some of the values you like in there? Would love to hear them. JR1616 would like the thoughts on Mixon, Sanders, and Dalvin Cook. I think Mixon is probably going to be playing somewhere else. That seems to be the direction it's going. Sanders, pretty sure he's going to be playing somewhere else. Dalvin Cook, one more year in Minnesota. I think we might be sleeping on him a little bit. We'll see. Obviously it wasn't a great season last year, but if we're moving on from Alexander Madison, maybe they bring somebody else in. Maybe they draft somebody. I know I want to say in the mock that we're doing with Jake Anderson and I, or for John Bosch, the mock on mock, or using Shane Hallam's 7-round mock draft, and he has Minnesota drafting, I believe it was Sean Tucker. So something like that could change the outcomes there. Scott Kobe liked the P. Ryan pick too. Like P. Ryan could end up being the feature back for the Cincinnati Bengals. So Scott Kobe has the pertinent question here. If Mixon is gone, where do we rank P. Ryan? Assuming P. Ryan sticks around too, I think you'd probably move him up into the running back 2 range, right? I mean, he's a good, well-rounded back, catches the ball reasonably well. This is not a tight end premium. So that's why I was interested to hear if Troy had a take on his 2 tight ends there early on. How do we all feel about Kyle Pitts? Still not sure. I mean, the talent is there. But man, we haven't seen it come together. All right, so we're gonna have to cut it off here. Great draft. Really some interesting picks here and some interesting approaches. I hope you found it somewhat valuable. P. Ryan was better than Mixon when he started. I would agree with that. Could Cincinnati be played for Bijan Robinson? I don't know if they pick early enough. I think that's the question, right? How early will he be going? That to me is the question. And I think, I've asked a number of people who pay more attention to their rookie situations than I do. I'm getting there, people. It takes me time to catch up. But I think, does he get out of the top 10? I mean, that seems to be not the trend in the NFL right now. So we'll see if somebody picks him that early, especially with quarterbacks likely to go very early. Real estate lawyers in New Jersey and New York. Pitts is the Pitts. Harsh. Like the late value on Kareem Hunt Foreman there too. I agree with that. Depends on who's playing quarterback in Atlanta for Pitts. 5 spot, good day off. Okay. Anyway, thanks again, everybody. We'll be doing this again. I'll be back on, what is today? Saturday. I'll be back on Wednesday. We'll come up with some interesting topics, maybe discuss this draft a little bit more here, talk about some of the values and who we like and didn't like as we look at some picks. I think very solid draft. Appreciate all the drafters jumping in. Troy Olsen, TEP or not, likes them. So Troy is fine, likes those tight ends. I like Kittle there an awful lot. I think, Pitts, I agree. I think the talent is there, is the offense and the quarterback there. No worries, Troy. I appreciate you coming in. Thanks everyone for showing up. Catch me on the Fantasy Sports Radio tonight, 7 p.m. Thanks for coming, Andrea. Thanks, James. Thanks, Scott. Thanks, Dame. Appreciate y'all showing up. Scampers, John, really enjoyed the conversation, so thanks for coming in. I'll be back Wednesday night, 7 p.m. tonight on Sirius XM Fantasy Sports Radio. Thank you, Matthew. 7 to 9 p.m. I'll be back on that radio station Thursday afternoon, 4 to 6. So plenty of diehards ahead. Wednesday, though, right back here on the live stream. And Bruce, we will be on tonight, and we'll be on again next Thursday, and on again next Saturday. It's going to be probably once a week into April, so appreciate you listening when you do. Watch my Twitter feed for the times. All right, everybody, I got to get out of here. Thank you very much. We'll talk again Wednesday night, 7 p.m. right here, unless you listen to the radio tonight. Go to Football Diehards website, use the promo code DIEHARDS